Welcome to Catch Outdoors. I'm your host, Captain Rob Modies. This podcast is about living and playing in the Florida Keys, a 125-mile long chain of islands that runs all the way from Key Largo down to Key West. I cover my favorite sport, fishing, but also all the many things to see and do down here in the islands. Catch Outdoors is hosted by Spotify and also brought to you by your favorite podcast network. So kick back and relax with me in the Keys. This week's episode of Catch Outdoors is number 150. Hello all, and good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you've tuned into my podcast, or maybe even the middle of the night, like I do. I'm recording this on Sunday evening, the 4th of August. I'm going to start with this follow-up from last week's podcast. Last week I talked about the rules for dive flags and wasn't sure about the legal minimum size requirements. I mumbled through it because I really didn't know. I don't snorkel and dive much. I'm planning on it though, so I looked it up. So here it is. On a vessel, it needs to be a minimum of 20 by 24 inches. And from a buoy, a minimum of 12 by 12 inches. The buoy means the one that you're towing around behind you while you're actually in the water. Keep in mind, these are minimum requirements. I saw several for sale on the buoys that were 14 by 16. So that's a good thing, bigger. Those are okay, just as long as they are bigger than the minimum, of course. And in this case, bigger is better. You want to be seen from a long way off. Well, let's see. I could talk about the weather, but you're probably sick of it by now. Hopefully, wherever you are, it's passed, except for those of you listening up along the northeast coast and across the Georgia and up and down. I know the scheduling of the landfall is for tomorrow, Monday, up in the Panhandle. So by the time you listen to this, I would imagine it'll be well into the southeast states, and maybe headed for the Atlantic Ocean again. So right now, at this time, last time I looked at a report, it was damn near a hurricane. Name is Debbie. 65 miles an hour, I think, were the winds. So it's really close. It is out in the Gulf. It is actually roaring past my brother's house near Sanibel, Fort Myers right now. And they're having a little flooding. They got some high tides and lots of water around, but he sent a picture a little bit ago showing the water receding. We had a little damage down here in Key Largo. We were on the edge of the tropical stuff, the tropical storm stuff. We had some gusts to 40, but nothing real crazy. We lost some trees, not in our yard, but down the street. Lots of branches and lots of stuff down, and nobody's out doing anything. It's been blowing for days. This started like 3 days ago. And it just has been building. Got a lot of rain out of it. Needed rain, quite frankly. But it was pretty crazy. Before that, we had the most beautiful weather. We had the Saharan dust kind of left, and we had brilliant, bright blue skies, and we actually found ourselves, looking pretty. And then all of a sudden, the tropical storm got announced, or the tropical wave, as it was called back then, and oh boy. Anyway, very breezy. Lots of rain. Lots of yard cleanup. The track of the storm has changed pretty dramatically as it went along. It was going to come right toward us, toward the Keys and Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and then it eventually they did what it usually. These storms are like somewhat predictable. The ones that come out of the lower Atlantic like that come across the Caribbean. They will typically go right by us, go out into the Gulf, and then hang a right. This one pretty much did that. This one went down low enough to go across Cuba, and that really saved us. We were still on the wet side, but when it goes across Cuba, it takes a lot of the stuffing out of it. I'm still worried and concerned about my friends and folks that are way up in the Panhandle of Florida and in the armpit, as I like to call it. Yeah, where that is, the crook where Florida goes from north, south, east, west. It's going to be a hurricane when it gets on shore, and it's looking like the prediction's around an 85 mile an hour Cat 1. It still does a tremendous amount of damage, especially when you involve water. And we've had some roaring high tides because the new moon is out. So we'll keep you posted, or I'll let you know next week. I mean, we'll obviously talk about it. And anyway, fishing. I made it out. Monday. I went on Monday because I saw the weather. I'm like, oh man, by Wednesday, this is going to hell in a handbasket. And boy, it did. So I thought, I'm going to get this in while I can. And what was funny about Monday was the calm before the storm. literally. Everything laid down. It was absolutely beautiful. I went out in the Atlantic, ran out about 7.5, 8 miles out on the edge of the drop off on the, where the patch reefs turn into the very deep water, and had a really great time. It was a last minute decision, so I took several boxes of shrimp, and that was about it. I didn't have any chum in the house, and I really didn't have anything else. Just I had several boxes of shrimp. Thank goodness I had that. And I ran out there thinking, well, if there's bumps and waves, because sometimes after it calms, you still get residual rolls out there. But that wasn't the case. It was unbelievable. Could have gone to Cuba if I'd had the fuel. No problem. Caught a lot of yellowtail, short ones, a lot of yellowtail. Some really nice grunts, the blue stripe grunts. I love them, and we ate them for 2 nights, so I got plenty. They make nice little fillets. Fillets are nice and pink. They look very similar to snapper, and we light fried them in the frying pan 2 nights, so that was great. I caught a mess of parrotfish, different varieties. I have no idea what they all were. Some were pink, some were green, some were blue. I love parrotfish. They fight like the devil when you get them off the reef, and they're all released, of course. Got a strawberry grouper. I got a Spanish hogfish. Bunch of fish I didn't recognize. That's how it is on the reef. Sometimes the one will come and you go, what in the world is that thing? Tides were ripping. They really were. It was great. When I got out there, the tide was just coming off high and going to low. And boy, when it started going, it really went, and that really brought the fish. It really got the fish bite going for about 3 good hours. Storms were expected in the late morning, so I got off the water about 11 in the morning and made it home I made it home right before all the nonsense started from up north. We had some storms sliding down from north to south, which is a little unusual this time of year, but that's how it was. Let's see. Oh, the rig. But basically, I used a jig head like I've always done. I keep discovering when I go offshore, because offshore is fairly new to me, and it's a learning process. I only speak about what I've done. I started jig fishing on my last venture out. I talked about it in the podcast. I was using heavy weights and drop weights and all kinds of things down to the bottom, and I discovered the jig works a lot better. 1/4 ounce jig. So I cast a jig and put shrimp on it and let it drift down to the bottom. And usually before it gets to the bottom, a yellowtail or something will grab it and take off with it. So it's become a pretty good process. The problem the other day was all the yellowtail I was getting were all shorts. They were like 12 inches or shorter. I couldn't find a 14 to save my life. And the grunts weren't biting. I'm thinking, okay, I know why. The grunts are on the bottom and this bait's not making it. So I put a circle hook on, a little 2/0 circle hook, and put a split shot on and let that straight down from the boat on the rock piles, and got 10 or 12 really nice grunts. I was surprised. Normally grunts are little. They're not more than 8 inches. So these were all 10 to 12 inches. These were horses. They were fantastic. So that was my aha moment, get it on the bottom. And of course, that's when the parrotfish and a lot of the little groupers showed up too, but whatever. I didn't bring the fly. I'm going to. I have an intermediate line, but I don't have a sinking line, and I need to get a sinking line first. For those that don't understand the fly fishing thing, the line itself is what delivers the fly, the lure, if you will. And it's instrumental in getting it there, because that's where all the weight is in the line itself, not in the lure. The lure is very, very light, typically made of feathers and fuzz and things like that. So I was thinking about it, and then I realized, no, I'm going to be in 17 to 30 feet of water. Ain't no way it's going to get down to where it needs to be. So I've got a line at the house. I actually have a sinking. I've just never put it on a reel, so I'm going to work that up and get that going. In fly lines, it's like this. There's a floating line, so after it's all laid out 40, 50, 60 feet away from you, it floats. And at the end of it is your leader and your fly. And the leader's usually, the leader and the tippet, maybe 7 or 8 feet in saltwater fishing. It's longer in some other fishing, but in saltwater, that's plenty. And there's a bite tippet at the end of it for the toothy creatures. The intermediate does exactly like it sounds. It sinks part way down into the water, which helps drag that tippet down and drag your flies down. Sinking sinks. like a rock. So when you cast it, it goes down, baby. Back in the days when I was casting along the beaches in the Sanibel, Fort Myers area, I would use sinking when the water was yucky on the beach. In other words, the snook loved to go down and hug the bottom when water gets chopped up along the shoreline. So you're out there, the water out there will be 7 or 8 feet right off the beach. Well, right off the beach, it's a foot or two, but then a little further out it's deep. When it's yucky, when it's dirty, the snook get on the bottom and feed on the bottom. They're not up in the water column, so your floating line with a fly won't work. So you really have to put a sinker on or an intermediate to get it down. So that's what I have to do offshore. I gotta fancy it up, and then I'm gonna put a weighted, little heavier clousers or something with maybe some lead wrap on the hook itself to help get it down. But I'm anxious to try it because I'm pretty sure it'll work. So let's see. I got Saturday's fish. No, wait a minute. Oh, Saturday's red tide report. Can't even read my own notes. No red tide. Yay! No telling what the storm will do. It's not an old saying. It's an old, we know it. After big storms, it stirs the bottom up. And we have had red tide problems on the West Coast, all the way up into Sarasota, Tampa Bay, and down, of course, into the Fort Myers area. We'll just have to see what happens. If it does, I'm blaming it on the hurricane. I'm not going to blame it on anything else because stuff just settles in the bottom, and all you need to do is stir it up and makes that old red tide real happy. So I hope that doesn't happen, because I have had the longest stretch of reporting on this podcast that there is no red tide. It's amazing to me. It really is. So pretty cool. Let's see. My book, What I Know About Fishing the Florida Keys. Get it. Get it while you can. It's selling pretty well. Actually, it's selling very well. The signed copies come from me. You can get them at catchyoutdoors.com, page 4. And you just basically click on the book you want. There's 4 books there. All 4 of my books are there. So you have to scan down to get to the What I Know About Fishing the Florida Keys, and maybe pick up one of the others if you like. They're also available on Amazon. Those are not signed. But you can order them on Amazon, and they aren't as pretty. They're not as pretty as the ones I had printed up for me for sales on the website. Let's see. I mentioned last week about doing some local music stuff, because that's my other love. No, my wife is my other love. I'm nuts about fishing and music. You can just put those two right side by side. If I'm not fishing, I'm playing the guitar, writing songs, and if I'm not doing that, I try to be fishing. Let's put it that way. So, and last week I mentioned the fact that I thought what I'd do is try to do a music roundup kind of thing, and I'm going to keep it real simple. I'm not going to make it overly complicated. I'm going to change it every week. This is about places to go and to see local performers. And also with some schedules, and also cover local releases of music as they become available. Okay, there's not so much of that in this podcast because I'm still researching, but a lot of our local artists have got recordings out like I do, and I think they're noteworthy, and I think that you should take the time to download or listen to one if you get a chance, especially if you've already got a streaming service where you're paying a monthly rate. You might as well take a listen to some of these songs. A few of them are weird. A few of them are wonderful. I've been listening to a lot because I want to, who's the competition out there? Who's playing music like I'm doing? And who's the newbies like me? And they're out there, so it's kind of fun to listen. So without further ado, in Key Largo, as usual, there are a lot of great places. I'll just start up here and work my way south. But I'm going to do my best to mix them up each week, like I said. And I'm only going to cover a few for each area each time, and to try to give you, I'll go back and forth a lot, but for the time being, I'm going to work on just a few. Right across the street from me is a wonderful little place called the Caribbean Club. It's on the Bay side. It's the place to go for live music. That's all there is to it. They pretty much have live music almost every day. They also, on Wednesday, when they don't have live, they've got karaoke night. If you're daring enough and you've had enough to drink, it's a lot of fun. It's also a lot of fun to watch. One of my favorites that play just about every Saturday night over there is the Luke Summerglynn Band. He starts at 7 p.m. They start at 7 p.m. He's the leader. It's a great mix of good old Southern rock and roll and classics. You know, it really is good. He cusses a lot. Don't take the kids. I guess I should warn you about that. But what he does, he's very entertaining and very funny, and it's a great band. They play a lot of covers and they do really well. The Crib, as the locals refer to it, is also a great place to watch sunsets over Blackwater Sound. And they actually, on their website, they have a schedule of who's playing and when, and they also have the schedule of the sunset for each week, so you have an idea when you should be there. And it's quite a gathering. Good. It's a great local gathering, and good for the folks, the tourists that are coming down. A great place to stop and watch the sun go down. I love the Bayside Grill. Live music just about every day with the two Steves that play there. I'm talking about Steve Webb and Steve Vanini. Steve Webb was part of the Webb and Davidson playing with Billy down at the Lorelei. So he does 1 day a week. Webb is on Tuesday nights at the Bayside Grill, and then Steve Vanini is on Wednesday, Thursdays, Friday, and Saturday. Steve is an excellent guitarist. As a matter of fact, he not only plays, he builds them. And boy, does he make some nice customs. Yeah, I've got enough. He's actually worked on my guitars. He'll, straighten necks and tune them up and fix them. And I had a little trouble on one of the guitars with one of my frets. He took care of the frets, so he's really good at doing that. The music is excellent. The Bayside Grill is located... how would I put this? I don't have a mile marker. It's in Key Largo, and it's all the way down right before the road splits. The road is together with a median in the middle, and before it completely splits apart to where you can't see the northbound traffic anymore, on the right are a whole mess of restaurants in there, and that's where the Bayside is, so check that one out. I'm going to skip on down to Isla Mirada. Most locals will tell you that the Lorelei is the place to be for live music and sunsets. I have to agree. It's pretty hard to beat. I've been going there since about 1995, and it's very difficult for me not to pull in there at least once or twice a month, especially if I'm driving by. It's really tough if I drive by. I'm like, oh, there's a Lorelei. Maybe I should go in there and pay it a visit. So, and it's interesting now living in a place where I'm close to it, because I used to think a lot about going to the Lorelei when I lived in other parts of Florida. I'm like, oh, I really would love to go down there and watch the sunset and listen to the music. For me, Billy Davidson, along with whomever else might be playing that night, is the main attraction. It's personal for me. He produces my music, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm also a fan. Billy was part of Case and Davidson, featuring Billy and a guy named Paul Case. What a fantastic duo. And unfortunately, Paul passed away recently. And Paul had already moved away. Paul had already moved back up north and was playing a lot up there. But unfortunately, he's gone now. But Billy carries on. I first heard him in 1995, and they were the main act at the Lorelei for years. Cover songs, original songs, things like that. So if you go online and look up Case and Davidson, you can find a few of the recordings to listen to. Really fantastic band. So Billy's there a lot, and some changes have been made which I was unable to check on. As a matter of fact, I'll probably be seeing Billy tomorrow, because we're going to start working on a couple more songs, and I'll ask him about it. But it looks to me like he is going to be the special person with special guest stars joining him all through the week at the Lorelei on different nights. And there's a calendar up. If you go to the Lorelei in Isla Mirada and pull up the music calendar, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There's a whole mess of artists that are coming in there, and these are locals. A few of them are from not out of state, but not from here, I should say. Miami, Fort Lauderdale. And I've listened to most of them at Billy's garden party, so that's why I wanted to make sure to put this in here. Don't miss the sunset. The sunset there is fantastic. It's an event, and it's not a Mallory Square, but it's a great event for Isla Mirada. I ain't kidding you. Here's a tip, too, for you. I put it in my notes for the music stuff. A band from Miami called Brothers of Others will be playing there. They are fantastic. Do not miss them if you're in the Keys while they are in the Keys. They're playing on August 9th and August 30th. They're the featured artist for the evening. So I'll make sure I don't think I'm going to make the ninth one, but Janelle and I have certainly, we can't. We're going to be in Key West, I think. We're going to do the 30th so we can go see them. And Billy had them at the garden party, and they were really great. Marathon. Shannon's Crab Shack, formerly the Keys Fisheries Upstairs Bar. There's a story behind that. Obviously, Shannon was a much-loved bartender, and she passed away. And the folks there decided they were going to rename the bar, which is the Upstairs Fisheries Bar. They're going to rename it Shannon's Crab Shack, and they've done that. If you're going to look it up both ways. I found on the web it was tough to find at first, and then I discovered all the rename stuff. And then Janelle told me about all the renames. I didn't know that had happened, to be honest with you. And Janelle told me live music, great food. The place is really, really neat. It's got a great view of the Gulf of Mexico, and obviously you're also going to get a good sunset up there. But stop by, and fresh seafood. It comes in on the boats at that location, so... and I'll have more for you at Marathon. There were a couple more I was researching and couldn't really get a calendar of events yet. So once I get that done, I'll bring that to you next week. Skipping down to Key West. Well, it's easy to name these, right? Sloppy Joe's or Hog's Breath or Captain Tony's or the Green Parrot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'll get those as the months pass by, but this time around, I want to mention a couple of lesser, well, they're well known to us, but lesser known to most people that travel into Key West. Number one, and important, I'm going to feature this one a bunch. It's called Two Friends Patio Restaurant, or what we all just call Two Friends. It's down on Front Street, which means it's all the way down on the north end of the island where all the great big beautiful resorts are. Back where Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville used to be, is up in, well, not really there, but all that's close together on that north end, huddled together. It's at 512 Front Street. Got live music every day, all day. I think that's what I like about the place. No matter when you go, there will be a live artist playing. And they're very, very good. That's the other part. It also has some of the best food in the Keys and certainly has one of the best breakfasts. No doubt about the breakfast. It started as a saloon back in the 1800s. It claims to have had the first female bartender in Key West. I thought that was interesting. It was Mel Fisher's hangout. He was actually at the bar. I'm talking about treasure hunter Mel Fisher. He was actually at the bar when the first treasures of the Atocha arrived. There was also a bordello upstairs. The first draft beer in Key West, Schlitz beer, was served there, and they have a ton of celebrities coming and going. You never know who you might see in that bar. Be sure to check out the photos when you're there, too, of the celebrities. One of my favorite performers, this again is personal, and is a regular there, is Erickson Holt. He's a local singer-songwriter. I was lucky enough to have him play keyboards on my song Stone Crab Blues. Two Friends has him there. He does a breakfast, a Bloody Mary breakfast. And by the way, I guess I should mention that, Two Friends just got voted as the best Bloody Mary in Key West. And that's saying something because everybody serves a Bloody Mary. But they won. And I think this is the third or fourth time that they've won this. So the breakfasts there are special. The omelets are delicious. The Bloody Marys are fantastic. And you get live music. And Erickson plays basically kind of bluesy piano. That's the best way I could put it. He plays a lot. He plays rock and roll and a lot of other songs too. But he's an excellent pianist. And by all means, stop in there and check it out. So that's Two Friends. I've also got to mention Blue Heaven. It's kind of an offbeat. Those of us that are in the Keys a lot know about Blue Heaven, and we know about Blue Heaven having also the most wonderful breakfast on the planet. And they serve mimosas and Bloody Marys and all that fun stuff, and just delicious, delicious food. But what most people don't talk about the Blue Heaven is they have a lot of local singers singing in there, and it's that laid back kind of, smooth jazz. I don't know what to call it. A lot of times it's just a gal or a guy singing on their own. Sometimes there's a duet in there singing, but it's that kind of laid back stuff that you can listen to, but it's not right in your face, which a lot of Keys bars are right in your face when the music's playing. It's almost hard to have a conversation. Not so at the Blue Heaven. So combined with the really good food and the good music, I'd have to recommend it. Oh, I have to mention this. They have the world's greatest, I ain't kidding you, Benedicts. It depends on what season is what and what's going on during what season, but sometimes it's lobster Benedict and in season, stone crab, blue crab, shrimp. But if you can be there when the lobster's coming in, which, by the way, starts August 6th, which is, 2 days away, they make lobster Benedict, and you just cannot beat it. I ain't kidding you. Speaking of music, I'll be in the studio this week. Yay! Yeah, the weather's going to be pretty cruddy for the next couple of days. So Billy and I thought we'd get together and knock a couple songs out, at least get them prepped. Let's put it that way. So I'm excited about that. I'll let you know more about that as it goes. Let's see. Oh, another tip I want to give you guys. This is something to watch on TV. My friend Angie sent me this one. The title is "It All Begins with a Song." See, I've tied all this together. It's a documentary about the songwriters of Nashville and how they are mostly unsung heroes. No pun intended. Actually, it was, but I found it really interesting, and I hope you do too. It's on Prime. It really is. It's about the trials and tribulations of songwriting and getting your song published, getting your song out there for people to listen to, and especially getting it to the big star. And I just found it utterly fascinating. And I know a lot about Nashville because I lived in Louisville for a while and used to go down to Nashville quite a bit to listen to music. As a matter of fact, I was part owner in a business in Nashville. And so we went down quite a bit. And I kind of miss it, but I'm not going back. But the documentary made it pretty clear that if you want to be a really big songwriter, it's best to go to Nashville because you get to hang out with all the great songwriters, and they all share information back and forth. But it was fascinating to listen to these people talk. It was fascinating to listen to who they've written for. And you'll hear that song that you probably have heard on the radio and you love. You have no idea that somebody wrote it other than the artist that's singing it. That's the case for a lot of people. Don't realize that most of these songs, I think the last album, the Kenny Chesney album that was really good, I think he wrote 2 or 3 songs out of the 9 or 10 that are on the album. So just to give you an idea what's going on with that. But anyway, check it out. It's on Prime. It's called It All Begins with a Song. Let's see. Before I jump into useless information, I want to pass along another recent discovery of another aha moment. We've been having a bit of a problem with stray cats. Not to mention raccoons, possums, small little wood rats, all kinds of. We live in the jungle. Let's just put it that way. Iguanas. They like to use the woods as a nighttime hiding spot, but unfortunately, in the dark, they come over to our side yard and use it as a great big giant personal sandbox. This would be the cats. And, I'm not about to shoot a gun at a cat. I'm not about to throw things at cats. I just, I had to come up with a solution. Like, what can I do? I kept raking poop out of the side of the yard. It was annoying as hell. And then all of a sudden this was the aha moment. When I went fishing years ago, you go fishing around the docks and the canals in Cape Coral and other places, but mainly Cape Coral. People would get hostile. They're not allowed to tell you not to fish in the water near their houses or what, because they don't own the water. They might own a dock and they might own a boat on the dock, but they don't own the water. So technically speaking, you're allowed to fish there, but you got to be careful. You certainly don't want to ding some guy's gel coat on his boat with a great big old jig head. I mean, I understand that part of it. So you have to be careful. Well, apparently they're pretty irritated by it because there are a lot of fishermen that don't give a damn, and they do cast errantly and wind up on the dock, or they hit a boat, or they might even hit the house for all I know. So they started putting these sprinklers out. That's right, motion detection sprinklers. Been around for a long time. I don't know why it didn't occur to me. If you paddled up to a dock to get ready to fish and all of a sudden you heard, you better duck, Now, most of us knew the best snook spots to fish, so we just put a raincoat on. Let it rip, baby. I'm getting me a snook. But it was kind of funny. That became the talk around the docks when I was a guide. Like, what canal have you? But you got to be careful when you go in that one. It's got a whole bunch of those damn sprinklers in there, so be sure to wear a raincoat. So I thought, all right, I'm going to get me one. So I went online and I did a search like all good people. Man, I can't believe, what would we do without the internet? Well, we'd have to shop a store over and over and over again, or ask a friend. So I got online, I started looking, and sure enough, I found Black & Decker. Black & Decker, the company that makes drills and saws and all kinds of great stuff, makes motion detection sprinklers. These things are solar with solar batteries in it, so they charge up during the day. You can arrange it so it has a very limited spread. It doesn't go like crazy across around the yard. In our case, it's just a little side yard they like to use. Put it in there, and it'll detect up to 40 feet, and it's on the ground. So if the little dude comes along, pop, 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 off it goes. Well, guess what? It works. Yeah, I've had it installed for about a week now, and the poop is gone. I just can't even imagine what they must have been thinking when they started doing that, and all of a sudden that sprinkler went off. So, yeah, I know. And the raccoons stopped messing around over there too. Raccoons like to play in the garbage. It's on the same side of the house that the garbage cans are. I don't put any garbage in the garbage cans until pickup day. We've learned. I mean, now people move here don't know, but if you put garbage in your garbage cans at night and you don't secure them securely, the raccoons will get in it and make a huge mess you have to clean up in the morning. So that's what was happening. So I think I've pretty much prevented all that from happening. At least I hope so. So there's another tip for you. Just if you got a problem with critters and you got critters coming around the house and doing things they shouldn't be doing, sprinklers come in real handy, and they're humane. Yep, they should. They just get a little wet. That's all. And now I think it might be time for a little bit of useless information.
And now, from the original book of useless information.
You are a reject! You are useless! You can get a job down here cleaning toilets!
Here's your host, Captain Rob Modies.
Well, he swears up and down he's useless, but
he might be all right eventually, but completely useless.
With useless information.
Okay, here we go. Let's see, I got 4 of them once again. I also took my finger and just stuck it in the middle of the book. So, Russia built more than 10,000 miles of railroad between 1896 and 1900. 10,000 miles. The U.S. standard railroad gauge, the distance between the rails is 4 feet, 8.5 inches. Don't ask me why. Totally useless information. A fully loaded super tanker traveling at normal speed takes at least 20 minutes to come to a full stop. So don't boat in front of one, okay? And last but not least, about 7 million cars are junked each year in the United States. Lord. I would like to say, though, most of that is recycled, so that's a good thing. And there you go. Until next week. Let's see here. Before I go, my usual final words. I've learned with old age to take things a bit more slowly. That includes walking and talking. Yeah, it's hard for me to talk slow. I get wound up pretty good, but I'm working on it. It's good to think it through before you say something, though, especially now in this supercharged political season. I can't wait until this is passed, but I also don't want to wish 4 or 5 months of my life away. That would be silly. The walking part. Going slow means not falling down. I'm doing my best to be able to say, no, I haven't fallen recently when the doctor asks you that at your doctor visit or at the hospital or wherever else. No, I have not fallen recently. However, on my next visit, I am going to have to admit that I was admitted to the hospital thanks to my damn kidney stone. So I get dinged this time. Which leads me to this. Drink lots of water. Yep, it helps clear up the pipe so that there's less chance of getting a stone. And let me tell you what, stones suck. I'll talk to y'all next week. thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed listening, please tell a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The Facebook page is Catch You Outdoors. The website is catchyyououtdoors.com, where you can find all the previous podcasts and a schedule of what's to come. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.